Sister Rita Burley. 1997 to 2007. Our mission today. Madrid, February 24, 2000. On the occasion of the 150th anniversary of the birth of Saint Rafaela Maria, in 2000, from February 21st to the 24th, a week of talks on our spirituality was held in Madrid. Its goal was to allow us to go more deeply into the richness of our spirituality with grateful memories and future goals. It is in this context that Sr. Rita gave this conference, from which only the parts most directly related to education are selected. Our mission today, the heritage of Saint Rafaela Maria. In her own time and all throughout her life, in her words, in her way of living and being communion, Saint Rafaela Maria incarnated and defined the framework, charism mission spirituality, which she received from the Spirit just as the life and the identity of a plant are contained in the seed. During this week, other sisters have spoken of Saint Rafaela Maria in her historical moment. They have told of how she listened to the world, society, and the church, the hearts of men and women, and the needs of people less fortunate than herself. I am not going to repeat what they have said. I merely wish to stress the fact that Rafaela Maria did not invent her mission. Rather, she received it, and continued to understand it and embrace it, through faithful listening to God, to the Church, to her own experience. She saw that something had to be done so that men and women might know and love God, and she realized that the most likely means to bring this about was to place Christ to be adored by the people, teaching the people to recognize Christ in the Eucharist, to discover the immense love of God shown in the heart of Christ, and to respond to it. She also saw the importance of offering this message as a way of life. This word, life, has been repeated very often during these days. Rafaela Maria concentrated on a specific need of the society of her age, the lack of adequate Christian education for women, especially in the poor sectors of society. She proposed a way to repair the image of the woman of that time, by offering girls a comprehensive education, paying great attention to religious instruction, and educating in the faith. She insisted that this had to spring from a life totally centered in the Eucharist. In this way she transmitted the apostolic value of adoration. She did not write a thesis, but she transmitted this value. This is what most of us do. We do not write a thesis, but we want to transmit the value. She proposed a form of placing Christ to be adored by the people, appropriate to her age and lasting to our day. If Rafaela Maria were here now, she would be communicating hope to us. A hope based on her strong faith and continual trust in God, a hope from which she drew strength and interior energy in the face of the difficulties which arose from the beginning of the foundation. We all have difficulties, and we have to befriend them. We have to learn to live with them, and we shall find that they are the source of something better. Rafaela Maria would let us glimpse her profound conviction that the Lord will carry on His work, that the important thing is to let Him do so, to abandon ourselves into His hands which are so sure, to place our confidence in Him. He is the one who can do all things. I have extraordinary courage and energy. I trust in God because we are His and the work is His, and my confidence grows. I think that this confidence is part of our identity, and we all have the possibility of living it profoundly. As for the mission, Saint Rafaela Maria left us much more than some writings and activities. She confirmed the mission of the Institute by her life, a hidden, simple life, but one immensely full of humble love, and keep on loving. That is why her life is meaningful and continues to give life. It was made up of simple, but eloquent gestures of communion, reconciliation, generosity, universality, peace, forgiveness, humility, apostolic desires, gestures cultivated in her dealings with the Lord, in her hours of adoration. From that life stance, turning the will of God for her into existential reality, which led her to say, the greatest work I can do for my God is to give myself entirely to His most holy will. Spiritual Notes 1893. To work with my whole soul, so that the life of Christ may shine out in everything I do. Spiritual Notes 1892. Our mission today, IT is still relevant. Rafaela Maria, her life, her charism, her mission and spirituality, all this is the key to the heritage of the handmaids of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. During the 123 years of the life of the Institute, the handmaids have been incarnating this inheritance according to time, place, and culture, doing what she did, listening to the world, the church, her own experience, and listening to the Spirit. I said at the beginning that Rafaela Maria would resonate today with the words of John Paul Roman II, and that is equivalent to saying that her mission continues to be relevant to the church. That is how we handmaids see it. The world has changed, but we see that our mission, reparation, is very much within the single mission of the Church, proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ. We are women of reparation. We are Eucharistic. We are educators. As I have said, Rafaela Maria did not invent the mission, she received it. We too have received it. We do not have to invent it. The mission does not change. It is its expression that changes, because the world changes and its challenges change. Just like Rafaela Maria, we have to look and listen, faithful to the Spirit, to the Church, to our inheritance. It is only from this stance of faith and humility that creative responses can come. We look at the world with hope and with realism. During these days we have listened to various readings of reality. It is true that there is death. We hear a great deal about it. But in the world there is much more life. I meet so many people who are really alive. From our mission of reparation, we want to foster all life, and we want to help to reconstruct the bonds of brotherhood among individuals, peoples, and cultures. It is a whole program of reconciliation. Let us look for a moment at our world through some modern windows. Our mission today, repairing present breaches. Technology which unites and divides. The world is in constant progress, marked by some outstanding advances in science which have greatly improved everyone's life and health. They have contributed to a mastery over nature and an easier access to culture. Thanks to information technology, there are no longer any distances, and we are closer to one another. News of the events which influence the daily lives of our brothers and sisters reaches us very quickly. However, we know that this progress has not led us to a deeper communication, and is not the answer to the lack of brotherhood in the world. Reconciliation is a great challenge, and so is communication. We want to respond to these challenges of reconciliation and communication from our mission of reparation, wanting to cooperate with Him, through Him, and in Him to reconcile all people with one another and with God. Constitutions 2. The men and women of today are inspired by gestures of the heart, gestures of love, gestures of solidarity, human gestures. We need a culture of the heart, not one satisfied with the superficial or with sentimentality, but one that helps us to discover and understand life through gestures of closeness and support, through the symbolic, through attitudes, communication of values, and the sentiments of the heart. We have to communicate more from the heart, because that is the way of communion. The desire for peace in life. We look at the world and recognize the generosity and solidarity of so many people who are working for peace through conversations, dialogue, formation, processes of education for peace, the work of information and awareness raising. In addition, there is the volunteer movement among younger people. However, like everyone else, we feel the sorrow of recent wars, murderous wars that have exterminated so many millions of people and caused massive displacements and so many broken lives. It is very easy to keep to figures and forget about people. that a meeting I attended some months ago, they were talking about situations of abuse. Someone there asked for statistics showing the frequency of such cases, but the presider said, "We are not going to get lost in figures. If there is one case, there is a problem." We remember the armaments race, which keeps mistrust and fear alive, terrorism and ethnic conflicts, which have annihilated peoples who used to inhabit the same land. I was enormously struck when I spent a week in Croatia, where even after 10 years the signs of war are still evident. You can see how the people have struggled for life and still struggle. They want to share their stories, how they cling to life. I felt there, as in so many places, that life itself is threatened. We handmaids want to respond to this need from the deep reality of our mission, to promote the lives of others, working boldly and creatively, and in collaboration with so many others who are dedicated to this task. If we receive and believe the saving message of Jesus Christ, Prince of Peace, who loved us and gave himself for us, we shall be able to live in peace and pass it on to others. Peace means more than living without violence or under an order maintained by means of tight controls. It means living from the truth that God loves everyone and calls us to give everything for peace, even to its final consequences, as Saint Rafaela Maria did. When we know that human beings are being deprived of life, we feel personally affected, we suffer. We see the faces of these people, generally the faces of children, the old, the women. Indeed, the face of the poor is the face of many women. A passion for justice and a desire for peace and nonviolence are essential for living the gospel and for living our mission. The dedication, the sacrifice, and the efforts of so many sisters to free those who suffer from situations of oppression show explicitly that handmaids cannot stay silent or indifferent in the face of tragedy, violence, and the destruction of this world marked by intolerable social and economic injustices. The constitutions say, "Our mission of reparation, the vital force of the Eucharist and the gospel message we announce impel us to work for justice and love." Constitution 6. There is something we all can do, and that is to sow peace. We handmaids and all those who share our mission want to do this. We can all sow peace by means of small actions, listening, a word, sometimes silence, genuine forgiveness that is not just a formula. In this way we shall contribute to creating a culture of peace. Limits. Another important and challenging forum that I see in the world is the forum of limits. Life sciences and biotechnology continue to find new fields of application, but at the same time, they raise the problem of the limits that must not be passed if people's dignity, responsibility, and safety are to be safeguarded. Going beyond these limits in questions of money, property, natural laws, interpersonal relationships, treating people like objects creates breaches. What handmaids want to do is repair breaches, and more we are doing so in collaboration with others. How good it is to be able to acknowledge that we have a formed laity with profound human values who wish to promote the dignity of the person, who value and respect natural laws. We want to accompany these people and animate them. Animate means give life, something very proper to our mission. Value small gestures in defense of the dignity of life. How ready people are to respond when we animate them. Globalization. Globalization has profoundly transformed our economic systems, creating possibilities of growth beyond all our dreams, but it leaves many people, too many people, at the side of the road, unemployment in the developed countries, and misery in a great part of the countries in the southern hemisphere, keeping millions of women and men on the margins of progress and well-being. The culture of globalization, with the consumerism which it preaches, means that in every context in the world and in any nucleus of people, for example, In a city, the city of Madrid, in any parish here in Madrid, in a school in this same city, we meet several worlds, the poor, the long-suffering, the desperate. At the same time in these places, how many signs of solidarity and fraternity are emerging? We support these signs and do all we can to promote what the Pope calls the globalization of solidarity. The heart of a handmaid is moved when faced with the pain of so many suffering people. Refugees, the homeless that we find in all big cities, women brought to our European cities with the promise of work, but forced into prostitution, children who are abused and work long hours. Many, even small children, alone, with no family, thousands of child soldiers, the many boys, and even more girls, with no opportunity to go to school, especially in what we call the third and fourth worlds. And Africa, a continent officially condemned not to progress, and the broken family, and women. At present there is a great deal said about women's dignity, but actions, and so many more sufferings. All are calls to our mission of reparation, of doing all that we can to re-establish the real dignity of the person and of life, in just relationships of love and communion among persons, and between each person and God. As handmaids, we rejoice and thank God for the love and compassion which there is in the hearts of those who want to remedy these situations. There are many organizations and companies and people. Even more, we rejoice and feel amazed at the love, gratitude, and wisdom that we find among the people who suffer so unjustly. They bring the gospel to us. Culture. The culture of globalized consumerism challenges us, the culture that sees a person merely as an object that consumes. I am not going to take time here to speak about consumerism. I simply want to say that consumption and consumerism consume life. They lead to the death of what is vital to the human being. Consumerism means that life itself loses its value. The handmaid, because of her mission and her consecration, wants to nourish life. She wants to be bread made life, so that our brothers and sisters may have true life. Constitutions 18. The culture that handmaids want to spread and foster, because of their mission, is the culture of the heart of Christ. It is a culture characterized by mercy, compassion, forgiveness, tenderness, love. It means valuing people as they are, sons and daughters of God, our brothers and sisters. It means accepting the weakness of others, respecting their liberty. It means standing up for their lives, helping them to grow. It means fostering deep communication of life among people. It means helping them to discover God in their history, in their lives. Taking the road to Emmaus with them again, opening their eyes through listening and breaking bread, that is giving our lives for reconciliation and peace. This is the style of Christ. It makes the world human and promotes the civilization of love. This is the desire in the heart of John Paul Roman to himself, as his strongest desire during the celebration of the Great Jubilee. We want to work together here, and our point of view is always that of the poor, where Christ is always waiting for us. Regardless of the position we hold or the social groups with which we work, we want to be one with those who suffer, for in them Christ still experiences poverty, oppression and rejection. Constitutions 6. Concretely, we handmaids do this by means of the two characteristic expressions of our mission: a life centered on Christ in the Eucharist, and a life dedicated to education in service of the gospel. Our mission today: educators from the stance of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Every handmaid, wherever she may be, is an educator. For a handmaid with her mission of reparation, educating means discovering the good that there is in every man and woman and making it grow. We value our educational centers. We see them as platforms for evangelization, not only of the young people of today, but of the family of today. There we are building the culture and the society of today and of the future. In different parts of the world, we are trying to open up new paths of alternative education, but we still need more training for this. In our pastoral action, we handmaids try to recover the image of God that there is in every person, an image that is often hidden, deformed, and despised. We try to cooperate in working to bring about the birth of the new person in Christ. Constitutions 6. We want to do what John Paul II said last January 10 in his discourse to the diplomatic corps accredited to the Holy See. Speaking of the phenomenon of globalization, he says quite firmly that the citizen has become more of a partner in the common effort. This means, it seems to me, that the men and women of the 21st century will be called to a more developed sense of responsibility. First, their personal responsibility in fostering a sense of duty and honest labor. Young people don't even vote. Corruption, organized crime, or passivity can never lead to a true and healthy democracy. But there must also be an equal sense of responsibility towards others, an attitude of concern for the poor, participation in structures of mutual assistance in the workplace and in the social sphere, respect for nature and the environment. However, to be able to achieve this, they need help to develop the sense of their responsibility. In education, we want to form new partners. John Paul stresses that a citizen becomes a partner only by renouncing the idols of prosperity at any price, material wealth as the only value, and science as the sole explanation of reality, and by working for human rights so that equality of opportunity becomes a reality for all. This ideal presupposes that God will have his rightful place in people's lives, the first place. To be educators, we also have to be good partners and form others for this. Education in the service of the gospel is a privileged platform for this human and Christian formation. Education in service of the gospel in its multiple facets has the same goal: to establish the true dignity of men and women, their growth in faith in God, who is Father, in Jesus Christ as Savior, and in the living of brotherhood and solidarity. In education in the service of the gospel, we handmaids have a challenge in connection with new works. From the beginning of the Institute, we have developed our mission in our institutions, schools, residences, retreat houses, and in the last 20 years, in parishes and ministries of reconciliation, of spiritual exercises, of the defense of life, of human promotion. However, I see that today we need to develop activities so that these ministries may have a new face. That is the call today to education in service of the gospel. Another great challenge today to education in service of the gospel, the same challenge as yesterday's, but the answers have to be new, is how to stir up interest and desire in the hearts of others, to give a response to the questions: what is life? Why was I born? What meaning does my life have? Who am I? Nowadays in the hearts of many people there is nostalgia for goodness. I travel a great deal, and I usually talk to the people I meet. Many share their life with me, and I always find so much goodness. They don't name it, but there is a hunger, a thirst. Paul Ricoeur says, the sense of culpability has been lost. But there is still nostalgia for goodness. We handmaids believe in this goodness in the heart of the other. How can we awaken it? How can we accompany others so that we may help them discover the presence of God in their lives, in their history? How can we walk the Emmaus road with them?